Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Touchline Talk at 2 on a Tuesday, or just thereafter, with your boy, LNobbins. In today's exciting installment, I feel like I say exciting installment every single time. They can't all be exciting, can they? Or can they? I think they can. We're going to be, as always, a Q&A vibe. Seeing what you guys are saying, what your thoughts on situations in the world. But we are also going to have, as we tend to do on this channel, have an overarching topic. And I feel like now is probably a good time to discuss it in a bit more detail because we've had a fair few games. I feel like we've had 7 in the Premier League and maybe like around 10 in all competitions. Something like that. So we're getting more of a sample size as to how this City side is shaping up, how we are playing, and a recurring concern, which is a very valid concern from a lot of City fans, has been what's going on. Basically, why are we looking decent to good to great in certain parts of the match, specifically like the first half, versus the second half where we look a little bit shakier. What is going on? What is at play? As you can probably tell from the title of today's stream, my conclusion is that it is an issue of build-up fundamentally. We went into a little bit of detail on that in the post-mortem following the Brentford game. Today, I would like to go into a bit more detail on it, but what I would also like to do, because the title of the stream is Solutions, I don't just want to, have a, oh, this is doom and gloom and this is really bad and blah, blah, blah. I would also like us to try to be positive and think, okay, there is an area for concern here, sure. What is a potential solution? So this is also hopefully going to be, like, for my own benefit as well, a brainstorm session where we can all hopefully pull together and try to think of some potential solutions, whether they are short, medium, or long-term solutions. I think that would be an interesting approach for today's stream. As always, we will go off on tangents. We will go off on other topics. And that's just what we tend to do on this channel. So hopefully you guys like that as a concept. If you're watching live, leave a like on the video. If you're watching on the replay, leave a like on the video. And if you're watching on the replay, maybe leave a comment saying, of any solution that we discussed today, which was your preferred choice? Or if you have an alternative, please leave it in the comments, because a couple people did leave some really, really properly interesting comments on the most recent analysis video I did. Something that I never even considered before. So that's definitely something that we can touch on. I like the theory. I'm not sure about it in practice, but I do like the theory, absolutely. So we're going to be touching on all of those things and more. Make sure to listen to the Nobbot guys. Leave a like on the video as you are coming in. This helps the channel grow. This helps more viewers come in. This tells YouTube that this is a good show that should be plugged to other people. We are very close to 30,000 subscribers, and that's interesting and exciting, isn't it? Hello, Yash. The Head Doctor, good evening. Got Quinton. Views on Liverpool last week's run. They are looking a bit stinky, aren't they, Shivam? Looking a bit stinky. I think that a few games after the international break, maybe after the City-Liverpool game, I'd like to do a stream on, if City are still, in title contention at that point. It'll be interesting to do a stream focusing more so on, like, Liverpool, how they're getting on, Arsenal, how they're getting on, and so on, and so on. Tactical Board asks Quinton, I'm sure we can whip that out later. Big up to you, Macalo. Hello, Clark. We've got Hesna. We've got Naveen, MK Ready. I'm doing very well, thank you very much. And my Mrs. Liverpool are kind of looking like us last year. Lots of unknowns going on. And given, I really liked a lot of Liverpool's transfer business in the summer. However, that was sort of under the assumption that they were going to play like quite similar to how they did last year. They just sort of like massively altered the approach. And in hindsight, a lot of the signings are now questionable, I would say, or rather the strategy is questionable. It was very obvious from their first game against Bournemouth, I think it was Bournemouth. It was very obvious what their issues were going to be. And as much as, the Isak signing was a scary thought, and who knows, maybe it will become a scary outcome, signing a striker wasn't going to resolve their more defensive midfield concerns. It was like us last season. I didn't consider a winger or an attacking midfielder like a priority. I was more concerned about the defensive situation and indeed the midfield situation. Maybe Miami, absolutely. That's a very good point as well. The Palace game also. Let's begin, shall we, by first of all outlining what is the concern. I'll go into what I think is the reason, and then we can focus more on solutions to that. I think that's a good timeline of how to do that. So the concern is this. As I said at the top of the show, it's a reasonable, fair concern. City are looking a lot worse in the second half compared to the first half of football matches. I'm going to take that one step further. I don't think it's actually a case of first half good, second half bad. I'm actually going to be even sterner in my critique. And I'm going to say that we have seen moments in the first half of football matches where the same issues are arising. So even though I framed it as, first half versus second half, I don't actually think it's as simple or straightforward as that, because there has been evidence of City struggling with these issues even in the first half of games. Conversely, there have been games where the start of the second half has been absolutely fine, and it's not until the final 20 or so minutes of the second half. So I don't think it is necessarily as clear-cut as first half good, second half bad. There are areas of grey in between. But there is certainly a pattern there, and I think there is a reason for that pattern. What's the problem? City look far less threatening in general in the second half of football matches compared to the first. City are unable to approach the game with the same level of control as the second half compared to the first half. This has led many to suggest that perhaps the reason is City simply drop off, whether that's due to mentality, whether that's due to physicality and fitness concerns, because there are lots of minutes in these legs for a lot of these players who started back-to-back games. So perhaps, and the opponent is able to get more into the game. So the approach for many has been, it's been a City problem, as in it's been a direct City problem. If that makes sense. It's almost as if it's in City's hands, and it's their direct issue that they are not as competent in the second half of football matches compared to the first half. I personally don't view it like that. I'm going to go into a bit more detail. If you watch the analysis video, you'll have seen some of these data points. But let me just bring them up again. So using the Brentford game as a guide, let's say. As a guide. If I can get... Where's my data? Ow. And you'll have seen this if you watch the analysis video. You better have watched the analysis video, or you're getting banned. You're not getting banned. That would be quite outrageous to suggest such a thing. Fenway raises a good point as well. Perhaps City will look a lot better when a lot of their offensive players are back to full fitness and are available off the bench. Perhaps that's also a consideration. But let's take that Brentford game as a starting point, shall we? So, just revisiting some data is data. Let's take this one step at a time and try to answer the question of why this is happening. So, we're focusing on the Brentford game because we recently played Brentford, but you can replicate this across the vast majority of games this season, I would contend. Okay. And this is what we've seen so far. Again, the start of this stream is to outline the concern, we've outlined the concern, sorry. The next step is to outline the problem. The next step is to outline a solution, because we can't find solutions to the problem if we don't know what the problem is. So against Brentford, which is the case study for today's stream. Possession. In the first half, absolutely dominant, 73% of it. That dropped off by 10%, and obviously Brentford gained 10% while City lost 10%. So there's a 20 percentage point swing there, because Brentford went up by 10, we went down by 10. Okay. So the possession went down in the second half. That would lend itself to City having obviously less of the ball, because less possession, therefore less control in the match. That's probably not ideal. Okay, but why did the possession drop? Because in the first half, we had all of the ball and we had it in incredibly easy areas for us. It was either in the middle third or it was in their defensive third. Essentially, the ball was away from our goal and away from our box, which is what we want to be doing. We don't want, and Pep commented on this after the Arsenal game. He says, I don't like the ball being near my box, which makes total sense. You can't concede a goal if the ball isn't even near your box. So it's good to have possession, not aimless possession, but just speaking about it from the POV of like control and losing that control in the second half. Why is this happening? Well, the possession's dropped. Okay, but why did the possession drop? Well, City's passing accuracy decreased. So that means that City are losing the ball a lot more. Okay. Okay. So the possession's dropped. Why has the possession dropped? Well, City are giving away the ball a lot more. Right. That makes sense. If your passing accuracy is very high across the entirety of the pitch, that would suggest that you're not losing the ball. But it dropped. So that means that City are losing the ball more. That led to having less possession. Okay. But why are City losing... Why were City losing the ball more in the second half compared to the first half? Well, it was because City went long a lot more. And Fenway's absolutely right. Brentford were more aggressive, and you spoiled the next stat, but yes, that's absolutely correct. Well, City went long a lot more, so let's just recap, just because I've lost my own train of thought. City had less possession in the second half. They had less possession because they lost the ball a lot more in the second half. And they lost the ball a lot more in the second half because they were resorting more to ineffective methods of build-up, i.e. passing it long, punts, hoofs, whatever terminology you would like to use, long balls. That is what increased in the second half. And it's not by a tiny baby boy amount. For going from a 1% to a 6% is a pretty big, that's a pretty big increase, 6 times as much. It's especially, I mean, this is just for this match now, but we could also replicate it across other teams. But specifically to Brentford, this is also a little bit of a concern because I didn't want us to be going long against Brentford, where that is their bread and butter. But regardless, just to recap, we had less possession because we lost the ball more, and we lost the ball more because we went long more. So the question now is, why did we go long more? And Fenway's answered it here. We were forced to go long more. Because look at the pressing intensity from Brentford. In the first half, they so did not care about pressing us. They were the definition of passive. We'll get into the touch map in a moment, but they were the definition of passive. They seriously did not give a damn about trying to engage us high up the pitch. That was not their prerogative. That was not their concern. Nor should it be, because it's 0-0. The score's 0-0. And even when it was 1-0, it's still the first half. We see this a lot of times where City score a goal, but the team still opt to sit in. The team still opt to sit in and sit back and drop off because they don't want to get battered. However, the second half, as the game goes on, I think someone commented on this in my analysis video, and they're absolutely spot on. Brentford came out more in the second half because they were a goal down. And you've got to be a bit more aggressive, and you've got to be a bit desperate in a way. Don't desperate's the right word, but you've got to be more assured. I do think desperate is the right word. You've got to come out a bit more because you're losing. You might as well go for it. You might as well do something. Look at this, and this is an insane shift, by the way. Now, this isn't the best stat in the world because it doesn't necessarily account for how the opponent wants to play. So this does have to be viewed while also watching the game. But we know that City are a side who want to build out. Like, we aren't Burnley. So this, given the context of the match, I do think that this reflects the eye test, and I do think this is a useful indicator of data. So in the first half, so if you don't know what PPDA is, it means passes per defensive action, and it can be used as a decent qualifier along with watching the games to identify how aggressive is the opponent's press. That 30 or 29.3, I'm going to round up to 30, even though I should be rounding it down to 29, but I don't really care. The 30 in the first half from Brentford tells us that, generally speaking, Brentford were allowing us to play 30 passes on average before they would engage in a defensive action, such as trying to intercept a ball or trying to engage in a tackle, that sort of thing. Defensive actions, or a really intense press. That was by design. They were wanting to do that. They were wanting to play like that. The second half, that jumped down or up to 8. So now they've gone from allowing us to have 30 passes to allowing us to only have 8 passes on average. And that, in sum, is why we had to go long a lot more, because Brentford's pressing was causing us problems. Because we went long more, that meant that we were doing inaccurate passes more, because it's much harder to pass long than pass short. And because you're passing longer more so than passing short, that means that you are losing the ball a lot more. Therefore, you are losing control. Hence, Brentford going up by 10% and us dropping by 10%. So all of these things are connected. And this is just one example. I would need to look into it for every single game, but based on what I've seen this season, this is going to be replicated across the vast majority of games so far this season. What we have on the left is Brentford's touches in City's half of the pitch from the first half. In the second picture, on the right-hand side, this is still City's half, but this is now Brentford's touches in the second half. Now, this is a massive difference in these dangerous areas in and around the box. Of course, they had more shots, but they also had far more dangerous touches. And this, I believe, is ultimately why City were not as good in that second half relative to the first half. It's all related to this inability to deal with teams who press us high up the pitch. That has been the problem so far this season. This is not an isolated incident. If it were, I wouldn't be talking about it. But it's because we've seen it against Brentford. We obviously saw it against Arsenal. We saw it even against Burnley for the goal. We've seen it even against United. Nearly every single game you can think of this season, we have seen it. We didn't see it against Napoli. Fair play. We didn't see it against Napoli, but they were down to 10 men. So this is a concern. This is a problem for City, clearly. Because we are a team who like to build up from the back. This is literally a fundamental of Guardiola's philosophy. And yet, it has been a weakness for City this season, which is something I don't think I would ever say about a City side, but it is a reality, and it is causing us problems. It is giving the opponent the ball more frequently. This is leading to more attacks for the opponent. This is putting our defence and goalkeeper under more pressure. This therefore means that we are more liable to concede more attacks and more goals over the course of the entirety of a season. This is the argument of shot prevention. If your opponent doesn't have the ball, then they can't score. If you keep giving them the ball, then you are leading to shots. The example I always go back to was Ortega against Liverpool, where he had a couple of good moments at shot stopping, but go back, retrace the origin of those shots, and it stemmed from Ortega unnecessarily giving the ball away. So this is a concern, and I believe that this is ultimately the reason why City have been struggling this season. This is, or rather, specifically, if we want to frame the conversation as first half versus second half performances. Because in the first half, we see teams not being as intense in their pressing. In the second half, often we are leading by half time. They are desperate. I do think desperate's the right word. They have to score a goal, so they have to come out, so they commit more bodies forward, and that's where they get joy. I do not think that this is a coincidence. The data backs it up. My eyes back it up. The results also back it up. This is a thing for City. So build-up is a problem. And that's where City keep losing it. And I could like show like stills of like City losing the ball. Maybe I can go back to this, but if you want like if you want me to go through all those stills, then I just recommend watching my analysis video after this one of the Brentford game. So we can maybe come back to it in a moment, so I can illustrate my point a little bit more. In fact, we will come back to that. So it is a reality. It is an objective truth that City are struggling to build up this season when teams come on to us more. Okay. We all know the reason why. It's because... Well, let's explore the reasons why, actually. Let's explore those reasons. Because there are a number of reasons. The first port of call is that City, obviously, cannot build up in the same way that they used to. That can't happen. Because we didn't bring in a goalkeeper who is good on the ball. So that's the reality. So that's how it started. That's the origin. What does that mean in real terms? It means that you are now down a man in build-up, in the centre specifically. And I'm going to go back to my tactics board again just to illustrate what I'm trying to say here. So we'll get into the solutions identity, or I'll try to offer some solutions. But that's the purpose of today's stream, to first of all outline the problem, and then we can maybe brainstorm some ideas. That's when I'll come to the chat and have more of a Q&A sort of vibe. So let's say that City are playing... I don't know. Let's go throwback. Let's say we're playing a 3-2-2-3. Let's go back to treble vibes, yeah? Let's go back to treble vibes. Now, don't worry about the personnel. Just as an example, because this is my favorite. This is my favorite shape and my favorite system. So let me play, yeah? Okay. So let's say that City are in the treble year, and it's a lovely time because we're the best team in the history of the universe. We love to see that. Now, an opposition team opts to commit a number of bodies to the press. So let's say that we've got... let's say they're playing like a 4-3-3 for just for argument's sake. Let's get that ball out of the way. Actually, no, fuck it. Let's give the ball to Nunes. Come on, Nunes. Look after that ball for me, matey. So let's say they're playing a 4-3-3. There's lots of circles here, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm trying to get at. So their out of possession shape is a 4-3-3. So we have a back three. So what they are going to do is they are going to match up 1v1 against our back three. This is a team that wants to press high, obviously. Like, if they don't want to do that, then they'll back off. But let's say that they want to get at us, they want to press high, they want to force errors. So you'd have, once again, just use your imagination. This isn't actually Brentford, but you'd have here Shard pinned on Nunes. You've got Damsgaard pinned on Diaz. You've got Thiago pinned on Gvardiol. Okay. This is a concern for City because it's a 3-on-3 at the back. We actually don't have a numerical superiority here. Now, what could happen is you have a defender drop back to turn that into more of a 4 versus 3 at the back. As we'll get into in a bit more detail, this then invites the opponents to push up even more. This leads to a situation where we have to drop even more players back. This actually maybe creates more of a problem than a solution. So we'll come back to that in more detail, but let's ignore that for now. So what was City's solution? Because City weren't necessarily doing that. We weren't really strictly dropping midfielders as far back as the defensive line over the past 8 years or whatever, let's say, as an example. What City would do instead is they would simply have the goalkeeper join the build-up. So now you have a 4 versus 3. Now, this is a problem for the opponent, because now what do? All of a sudden, their front three, which was on paper such a great idea, because they can match up directly against our back three. All of a sudden, that edge that they once had is gone. It's no longer a 3v3. It's a 3v4. Or if like we were playing like a back two, and they committed, 2 plays forward, we can turn it into a 3. So now it's a 3-on-2 or a 4-on-3, as I say. This used to be City's solution, but this is no longer a solution. So City have gone from a +1 in central build-up to a net -1. Because now what is happening is, through no fault of his own, Donnarumma is not able to do that to the same degree. Thank you so much, Aguero, for your super chat. That's very kind of you. We'll come to that in a moment. Thank you so much, though, for your support. Love that. Why did my printer work? It's a bit annoying. I'll have to revisit that. So what we now have is a situation where we don't have that numerical edge. So that's just outlining the problem. That's outlining the problem. We are now in the center of the pitch, a net negative of 1. Because we used to have a +1. That +1's now gone. So that's our starting point. And I know I'm doing a lot of yapping here. I promise I will come back to the chat in a moment. You guys know me. I do love to yap. So we've lost that +1. Okay. What does this mean? This means it is now by definition easier for the opponent to match us up or even outnumber us to a degree. What does that mean? That means that we are finding it far harder to build up via the center of the pitch because we've lost that +1 in the center. This leads to situations like, where are we? Let me go back to my screen for a second. This leads to situations like this. So ordinarily, City would actually have an additional player there. That would be the goalkeeper. So now all of a sudden, Brentford in this instance, committing these 2 players to our back 2 in this instance, they're outnumbered. So they have a dilemma. Do they continue to be aggressive? Do they push up and then get bypassed easily? Or more likely, and what we saw for the vast majority of City for the past few years, they back off because they know that they can't beat us if we have 3 versus their 2. That's what usually happened over the past 8 years or so. Because City don't have this advantage anymore, and because the centre is no longer a viable solution, because their opponents are finding it much easier to congest the centre. Absolutely, Herbal Matey, don't worry. We are going to hopefully discuss some solutions. Because the centre is no longer as viable. And we'll come back to that. I'm not saying it's not viable, but what I am saying is that it's no longer as easy for City, and it's far easier for the opponents. It means that we are forced into a situation, for the most part, based on what we've seen so far this season, where City have to go wide. They have to go wide. This happens a lot, where the responsibility and burden now falls to Nunes, O'Reilly, Doku, Savio, Bob, Stones, Kasanov, when they play at right back, that sort of thing. This is one way that City have been trying to solve the problem. Hasn't really worked yet. But as Fenway rightly says, Aït-Nouri coming in for O'Reilly, which wouldn't be fair based on how O'Reilly's played, like defensively especially and going forwards, but Aït-Nouri does automatically improve City's build-up. What also helps is having, this pass from him wasn't very good, so this is a bad example, but generally speaking, having Gvardiol on the pitch also helps. So maybe now that we've outlined the problem, have I outlined it well enough? Hopefully I have. just very briefly, the reason why I don't consider this a direct midfield concern is because they are by definition down a man. So it is extra hard for them. The other thing is that we have seen, even with Rodri, Foden and Reinders all on the pitch at the same time, these issues still persist. It's not, even though Nico does need to improve on ball, it's not as straightforward as this is a Nico problem, it's fine when Rodri's on the pitch, because the issues are there even when Rodri's on the pitch. When we have players like, if you think of these players, if you watch Reinders at Milan, you'll know this as well, and we all know this as City fans, Foden and Rodri are some of our most press-resistant players in the entire squad. Are they the most press-resistant? They are certainly up there. And Reinders is also very press-resistant, based on what I saw of him at Milan anyway, and maybe still getting up to speed, but still. These are very press-resistant players. The fact that these players are struggling, and in addition to having a left centre-back of Gvardiol, who's fantastic on the ball, tells me that the solution is, or rather the issue, is not with the personnel in the centre of the pitch. Because we have seen that these players are exceptional at beating the press, but they are now not able to be as effective. And that's partly because of what we're going to get into. They are not able to receive the ball in the right areas to showcase those abilities anymore. Because the entire build-up structure has changed. That is where we are at. So that's the problem. But I don't, as I mentioned at the top of the stream, I don't want today to just be, oh my god, Nobbins is a hater about everything and he's so negative. Those are the issues, the problems, but now let's have a productive conversation together. I'm going to try to provide some suggestions, but I would also like engagement from the chat. And the comments as well. What is a potential solution for City? And don't say drop Donnarumma, because that ain't happening. That ain't happening. Whatever you think of him, please don't suggest that, because that's never going to happen, is it? He's going to be here for the next at least 5 years. So that is the starting point. The problem is here. Now, how can we get around it? It doesn't have to be like a total solution. It could be a mitigation. Absolutely, Fen. We're going to come to the super chat now. I'm just going to go to the comments before the super chat, and then we will come back to that. Could Bernardo drop from right wing, says Olv. Maybe we need Rico Lewis, says Ollie. How do you fix it? Yeah, we'll get into that identity. Other teams do well without having a keeper as an extra man. I'm not sure you can name too many elite teams that do this, though. Real Madrid is the only one I can think of. Every other top side has a competence to great ball playing goalkeeper. Barcelona have Garcia, PSG have Chevalier, Liverpool have Alisson, Arsenal have Raya, Bayern have Neuer. These are all the elite teams, like teams you consider better than City or hopefully the level City want to be at. They all have the ability to play like that because they have keepers who are good. They are either competent or good or great on ball. This is not the same as you can only have an extra man if you have Ederson. That's not the starting point. It's just can you have like a competent, a good one. So these other teams do have that. The only one I can think of that don't is Real Madrid. And that's because Courtois is like the best goalkeeper in the world and he's obscene and they find other solutions anyway in a different league and all that shenanigans. City, the most creative team in the league. There was like a debate here, not sure what that was about. But yes, we have absolutely scored the most goals this season. That's a fact. How are PSG building up with this very keeper, says Bernard? We can definitely address this. Oi, that tells me you're a fraud, and you've not watched my analysis video, because I explained that in detail, you little swine. Yeah? We will go through that, though, don't worry. Thank you so much, Aguero, for your super chat. It's very kind. How much of our build-up issue can be solved with going a 3-box-3? So a 3-4-3. Yeah. What are the drawbacks? So you've actually got me a team as well. So Kusanov, Diaz, Gvardiol, Rodri / Nico, and then Stones, Reinders, Foden, Shaky Hall, and Doku, something like this, as the lineup. So a 3 and then a 4. So who would your fullbacks be? Your fullbacks are Kusanov and Yoshko. That's right, isn't it? Or is he right back Stones? Oh, no, it's probably Kusanov, isn't it? I don't think we're going to be able to move Gvardiol to left back. I don't know if that's viable. I like Kusanov, but I don't think him being a right back solves the problem. I like your team though. I do like your team. I don't know if the fullbacks immediately resolve the issue, and you'd still have the problem of the central -1. I like that team though. I do like that team. The other thing I just wanted to say, I will be revisiting the chat again, is the reason why that I'm so convinced that it's a phase 1 problem. I've titled the stream phase 1. Phase 1 just means build up. That's just a really arsey way of saying build up. Yeah, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and you're in possession. Phase 1 is build up. That's like obviously building out from your own defensive third. Phase 2 is progression, progressing the ball through the center of the pitch. Phase 3 is goal scoring, chance creation, blah, 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 blah. I actually don't think the City have that much of a problem, and certainly against Brentford, we didn't have much of a problem once we got to phase 2 and phase 3. We just couldn't get to those phases often enough. If you're failing in phase 1, you can't even get to phase 3, never mind succeed in phase 3, so that's definitely a thing. Phase 4, isn't that where Arsenal are at? Ooh. They might win the title this season, so maybe it was all worth it. I don't know. It does need to adapt. I agree. Shirky's definitely press resistant, 100% Fenway. Yes, I think that could be a thing. Yeah, we've done that. Thank you, Fenway. We need a workhorse, says Sachin. Do you think Bernardo can drop from right wing to help the build up? Then we focus attacking on the left, since our right side attack isn't so great right now. Anyway, I just don't like Bernardo at right wing. I don't like Bernardo at right wing. Shirky at right wing, that'd be very fun. That would be fun, and that would improve. That would help us, because I haven't really talked about the wide receivers yet, have I? I haven't really talked about the wide receivers. So that was my other problem, based on the Brentford game, is that because you're going wide more, and if you don't have fullbacks who are really comfortable with the first touch, then a lot more burden now falls on your wide players to receive the ball in non-optimal areas and non-optimal body orientation. And we only have a few wingers where it doesn't really matter where they receive the ball, it will stick to them like glue. Doku is one of them, because not only is he tidy in possession, but also he is a stocky lad and he's strong. So even if the pass to him isn't particularly good, even if he's having to run onto it and like a right back or a right wing back is pushing onto him touch tight, Doku can hold him off because he's that strong. I think this is why Savio struggled against Brentford, because he's not got that same level of physicality or bulk as Doku does. So when a player, I can't recall who's their right wing back, Coyote or whoever it was, when he pushed onto Savio, he lost the ball far too easily because he's not that sort of outlet. He's not that sort of wide receiver. Doku is. I think Shirky could be. I think he's another relatively stocky lad. Great first touch. Bob has the touch. Does he have the strength? Dunno. Marmouche certainly doesn't. Even though I'm a big fan of Marmouche. So he's not got the first touch. He's certainly not got the strength either. Not sure what that is. So how long teams start putting this pressure on at kickoff when we can't build up for minute 1? This, Danny, is my concern. And this is what I'm very scared about. Because right now, we're sort of we've been able to get away with it for a large extent, because we've either like won the game before it's even become a problem, like against United, or like a Burnley, whatever, or we take the lead and then we're able to hold on to it because we have been better defensively this season. But you are right. What if Brentford played like that from minute 1? Or what if we couldn't get the breakthrough in the first half and Brentford decides to be a bit braver? What about teams that are more sort of in that mid-table sort of area, like mid-table to upper mid-table, more like an Aston Villa sort of vibe rather than lower mid-table? What do we do against those sides who are a bit more ambitious? That remains to be seen, Danny, and I do not know I do not know what's going to happen there. It'll be interesting to see how we resolve that. Okay. Potential solutions. What are the potential solutions? Some good suggestions in the chat. I've read a fair few of them. One that I didn't read out earlier, but someone did say, was I think someone suggested, why can't... Because ultimately, what's the problem? The problem is with the build-up. Okay, what if you just don't build up? What if you just eliminate it as an issue altogether? And just go, sack it off. Let's just become more direct. Let's become more transitional. Sack being a possession-based side. Let's focus more so on the strengths of some of our key players. And let's bypass their press altogether by just going long. Let's just do that. That's like the first question. Why can't we just do that? Because that would be more beneficial to Donnarumma. That would probably be more beneficial to a player like Haaland as well. Why aren't we going to do that? Or why shouldn't we do that? Well, the first thing to say is we aren't going to do that because that's not his philosophy or style of play. So before we even have the conversation of is it a good thing to do, it's never going to happen. Not under Guardiola anyway, because there is no world. He's been in management since, 2009? And then he was obviously like a player before then and held similar principles because he learnt under and played under Cruyff. He's not going to abandon a lifetime of footballing philosophy. So that's not going to happen, first of all. But why? But let's park that to one side for a moment. Let's say a different manager comes in or Pep has a change of heart. Why can't that just become the case? Why can't we just go long more so and just and be happy with having less than 50% of the ball and not become a possession-based side? Well, the problem with that is we don't have the players for it, ultimately. We don't have the players to turn into a dual-winning, dual-heavy, second ball priority side. Because look at our midfield. Look at all of our midfielders. We have Rodri, we have Nico, we have Foden, Reinders, Cherki, Bob, whatever. The vast majority of these players are not... What's the term I'm after here? They are not complemented by that style. They're not complemented by that style. And that's a good point as well, Fenway, isn't it? Yeah, he'd have to really lock in and be amazing at aerials and whatnot. This is where the Reinders signing and also the Cherki signing become odd. Because if we wanted to play like that, and it would suggest that bringing in a goalkeeper like that would be the case, then you wouldn't bring in Reinders. And you wouldn't bring in Cherki. You would bring in Baleba. You would bring in Morgan Gibbs-White. You would bring in Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, Caicedo, Bruno Guimaraes, Paquetá. Those ilks, Onana from Aston Villa. Those sorts of midfielders are what you should be going for, if that's the intent. And that could be a very long-term solution, but right now, that would require ripping out the entire midfield and resetting it to 0. And given the fact that we've just signed Reinders and we've just signed Cherki, that wouldn't... I don't know if that would make sense to do that. That is a solution, though, definitely, but it's not realistic. Let's be honest. It's not realistic to do that. So it's not going to happen because Pep ain't going to do it. It's not going to happen because it shouldn't happen because we don't have the players for it. And even if we did have the players for it, how many properly elite teams nowadays are reliant on that sort of football? That's not the same as utilising it. You know, they have it in their locker, but how many are absolutely reliant on that style of play, a more counter-attacking, less possession-oriented style of play? Nearly every single elite team out there is a possession-based one. If we take it to the Premier League era, we've touched on this before, the only teams that have won the title whilst prioritising counter-attacks are Conte's Chelsea or Ranieri's Leicester. Outside of that, it's possession-based teams who utilise the counter, but that's not what they're known for in the main. If we expand that to the wider echelons of Europe, Bayern aren't that sort of side, Real Madrid are not that sort of side, Barca are not that sort of side, PSG are not that sort of side. None of the elite, Arsenal, Liverpool, not these sides are not like that. You can throw Chelsea in there if you really want to. They don't play like that. So it seems unlikely that's a viable solution. It seems very unlikely that's a viable solution. So if you can't just go long, then what can you do as an alternative? And I think this is where we now need to have a conversation, because people keep asking. It tells me you've not watched the Donnarumma analysis video, yeah? Why can't we just do what PSG did? Or rather, people are asking, well, what did PSG do? Because I don't think lots of people actually watched PSG last year, certainly not in the league anyway, outside of the latter stage Champions League games. Lots of people didn't watch PSG last season. Well, what did PSG do? What was their solution? Well, the first thing to say is that in League 1, they didn't really have this problem because they are so superior that it wasn't ever really a problem for them. That's the first thing to say, in the main. So the second thing is, well, what about when they came against these better sides? Like Aston Villa, well, it's mainly Premier League teams, isn't it? Like Aston Villa, like Liverpool, like Arsenal. They won those games, technically. They didn't technically win against Liverpool. They lost and won, so they did win, I guess. Yeah, they did. Well, it's just because they went on penalties. I was trying to be cheeky there, but no, they did win. What happens there? And someone's already touched on it, so shout out to that person. I think it was Aguero who touched on it. Vitinha was basically the solution as to that. It was not a case of, well, PSG were able to build up with Donnarumma, so why can't we? They didn't. They didn't build up with Donnarumma. They avoided it like the plague. They just didn't bother because they knew that they couldn't. So Enrique's solution was drop Vitinha to basically play in the defensive line. Drop Dembele into Vitinha's hole. That way, you are still getting the +1 at the back, but you're not creating a massive hole in midfield. And the solution sort of worked. You could argue that they got a little bit fortunate against... they got a bit fortunate against Arsenal, I would say. They got a bit fortunate against Liverpool. Like the attackers did have to obviously score the goal to bail them out, but and of course Donnarumma had some amazing shot-stopping moments also. But ultimately they got the wins. Now whether that's the same as working is another matter, because then you're leaning more into results-based analysis. But ultimately they did get the wins in those matches when it mattered. So you can absolutely make the argument that it worked because they got the wins, even though if you watch back those games, it was, I don't know, it's a bit tricky at times. But either way, they got the wins. Okay. But City can't do that because we don't have Dembele. We have Haaland, who's not going to be able to drop deep. Because he's not that sort of player. Now, what's interesting, and let's go back to the tactical board for a moment, is we identified this. This was one of the examples I looked at when outlining City's weaknesses from right-sided build-up. Because Nunes is not... He's got himself into a situation here. I can't remember what happened here, actually. I can't remember if the pass into him was poor or if like his positioning was poor, but either way, or if his first touch was poor, can't recall. But either way, Nunes is going into a bad situation here. Look at Haaland's positioning. Look at how deep this man is dropping to try to help out with build-up. Now, I admire that he's trying to do that. I assume that he has been asked to do that because it would be very weird for the most number nine in the world to just randomly drop, as deep as almost Nico Gonzalez. That's the first thing to say. That's a bit of an odd one. But regardless, even if he did receive, and Nunes didn't try to play the ball to him here. But even if Haaland receives the ball here, he's going to be... There is a reason why Nunes doesn't try to play him here. Because of how many players are around him. So if Haaland plays the ball here, he's going to get pounced on. And he's potentially going to lose the ball. So the problem is that even though he's offering himself here, if he receives the ball there, how many of us are really confident that he's going to kill the pass with a great first touch and then turn, or play a really clever ball to Nico who can then switch it to Phil on this left side? How confident are we that that's going to happen? I don't think it is going to happen. If Haaland was Harry Kane, maybe that could happen. If he was Harry Kane, maybe that could happen, but he's not. If he was Dembele, maybe that could happen, but he's not. It's not playing to his strengths to get to drop him this deep. Where you need Haaland is in the centre up top, so he can pin the centre backs back. And this is another problem that we are seeing, because even though we had as a potential solution, well, drop the midfielder. That's a way around it. Look at what this does for City. If you drop players back, you're inviting other players in. Now, one could make the argument, as we did in the analysis video, that this now lends itself nicely because Brentford have committed 7 bodies forwards here. That means there's only 3 outfield players at the back. So that means, in theory, if you can create a 3v3 at the back, you're going to have a good time, especially if one of those players is Haaland, who we saw from the goal, loves to pin himself on the opposition defender. The question is, who is going to play those passes from these positions? So, okay, let's say that it was by design to suck in the opponent, because City have done that before. We did it last season against Brentford, funnily enough. The aim is to suck in players. Right. For Haaland to make that run in behind. Okay. The problem then was we had Ederson finding those passes. Realistically, how many of our players are able to find passes like that? Who is our best long passer? I would argue it's Rodri. And I do not think that even Rodri is able to do that to this degree in these areas of the pitch. You wouldn't even want Rodri here. You'd want him to be more where Nico is, so he can try to help with build-up. So actually, I scrap that. Even if I think Rodri's that player, you realistically need it to be a defender. So who's that? Gvardiol? I love Gvardiol. His passing range is great, but he's not got that in his locker. Not that I've ever seen anyway. We'd have to see a range of passing that we've never seen before. I'm not saying it's impossible. Exactly, Akash. Exactly. If we had Trent, a quarterback sort of passer, that is the perfect solution. That's the perfect solution. Gvardiol is good, Red Camp, but you're trying to equate what Trent was doing in this position compared to what Gvardiol is doing for Haaland. The two are not the same, I'm afraid. They're not even close to being the same. It's a very different skill set. Gvardiol is not a quarterback passer. Trent was. Ederson was. There are a couple of players in world football who do have that in their locker. I don't think we have one at the club right now. So this is one of the concerns with dropping players back. In the short term, you might think, okay, well, it's going to help us in build-up because we've got more bodies at the back. And yes, it could, but then what's the consequence of that? You're inviting more players to push up onto you. And we've seen that a lot this season. We've seen it a lot. In the past, that was by design because we had a way around it. Now, we don't. And what actually happened here is because Nunes, not disrespecting Nunes, but Nunes isn't Trent, the ball just goes straight to a Brentford player. So technically, in this case, and again, I don't really know why Haaland's dropped deep here. Really, if you wanted to do that, it should probably be Bob dropping deep or Savio dropping deep and then Haaland where Savio is. Because even if Nunes got that pass right all the way and hoofed it up to Savio, what's Savio going to do? He's not a hold-up player on any level. Certainly not in the centre. So that's a really weird... That was a really weird thing by Pep that he did in that game. What this tells us, I guess, is that Pep's still trying to find the solution. Now, I'm confident Pep will find the solution. And he's a lot smarter than any of us. So I'm confident that Pep will find the solution. But so far, he hasn't done it. Hence, we are criticising Guardiola for not being able to find the solution as of yet. What else is there to say? God, I've been yapping a lot, haven't I? Nearly an hour of yapping, Christ. Exactly, Fenway, exactly. And that's not a failing of Savio because he's not that sort of player, but he's never going to hold up the play like that. He's not Doku, he's not Haaland, he's not, Aguero or whatever. He's not got that in his locker. He's not that sort of player. He's not a central player generally. Never mind one who's going to hold up the play like that. A short-term solution. So basically, in sum, I don't think it's as straightforward as do what PSG did and just drop a midfielder. I don't think it's as straightforward as that. I'd love it if it were, but I don't think it is. So I don't even know if, for the purposes of like the remainder of this stream, I don't even know if it's going to be the center where we see the solution. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm just not sure that is the best thing to do. So what's the short-term solution? The short-term solution is to drop O'Reilly and play Aït-Nouri, because Aït-Nouri is a far more technically sound left-back than O'Reilly. Now, whether that would be the correct thing to do, I don't know. Whether it's a fair thing to do, certainly not. But sacrifices might have to be made if we are to continue like this. And we clearly are going to continue like this because we're not going to replace the goalkeeper. The medium-term solution is to bring in a new right-back. And that can't happen this season. I don't think there is a solution this season for right-back of the available players. Technically, the best solution would be to play Rico Lewis, who I don't want to be playing at right-back, really. That would be another solution. I don't really want it to be the case, but he is definitely our best build-up right-back option. I don't want it to happen, but that's maybe something to consider. Gvardiol has to start every single game that, without question, that he can start. That must happen. There is no debate there. He simply has to start. Otherwise, we are shafted. It would get even worse. It's bad now. It would get worse if Gvardiol wasn't in it. We saw how bad it was against Spurs when Gvardiol wasn't on the pitch, because you had Diaz waiting for passes to come to his right foot when he should have been playing it with his left, but he's not that. So Gvardiol has to play every single game. It could be improved slightly, because I do consider Kasanov to be a slightly better on-ball defender than Diaz, but Diaz ain't going anywhere. Stones right back is another potential solution, Bernadette, and maybe that is the balance. Maybe that's the trade-off. Because even though Rico is better at right back in those areas than Stones is obviously more defensively sound. Maybe that is the trade-off. I'm not happy with that, because it now means that we can't get into what I consider our best on-ball shape with Shirky playing off the right and then coming in centrally. He'd probably have to play off the right outright. The right outright. I don't know if I like that, but it could be a thing, couldn't it? So maybe that's like the best back for Eden. Thank you so much, mate. Long supporter of the channel. Thank you so much for promoting yourself to Nabinho Ultra. Welcome to the Ultras Club. You've made it. And your random footballer is McGeady. Anyone remember him? Russian League. I mean, he played for Everton as well, but Russian League. 5-star skills on FIFA or something. Thank you so much, Eden. Love that from you. If you guys would like to support the channel, I'm going to test something here. I'm going to click this button. Does it work? Oh, yeah. Automatic commands in the chat. If you guys would like to help support the channel and get, like Eden just has here, and get lovely perks, exclusive analysis videos, exclusive glowy name in the chat, little rat badge next to your name, and emote access, and support your boy, you can do so for as little as £3 a month. The link is there from the Nob bots to become a member of the Ultras Club. Lots of other perks as well. FIFA 12 was probably my favourite FIFA, to be honest with you. It was my favourite FIFA. I had the Team of the Year Aguero. That was my crowning moment. I had the blue Aguero. That was like what I was aiming for. And I got that without buying coins and all that bullshit. I think I played like 1,000 games in that game on Ultimate Team. It was so stupid. It was so stupid. Just going back to Stones at right back for a second. That definitely solves, or rather helps out with the on-ball dilemma. It would stunt us a little bit going forwards, because you're now losing this potential offensive outlet off the right side. But to be fair, we've been playing a back three for the past few games. Maybe that's just the new meta for Pep. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we're not going to play the attacking right back I want to play. I don't know how I feel. Well, I know how I feel about that. I don't like that, but that's the thing. So Stones playing at right back would be beneficial. This isn't like me having a go at Nunes. It's not me having a go at Nico O'Reilly. But we can all hopefully agree that they aren't particularly good with their first touch. That is a concern. Whilst I don't think that the Reinders and Cherki signings match up well with the Donnarumma signing, the Aït-Nouri signing actually matches up really well because he is one of the most technically gifted left backs available to City, and that's another point. Just come back to the PSG situation. Why can PSG do it? It's partly Vitinha. Look at their fullbacks. Look at who they had, and I guess still have. But look at who they had with Donnarumma as well. They had Nuno Mendes, and they had Hakimi. Is that the best technical fullback pairing in world football? Thinking. I feel like it is. Unless someone can think of another one. It's certainly up there anyway. It's either the best, or it's like top 3. Whatever. It's got to be up there, hasn't it? That's another reason. We don't have Hakimi. We have Nunes. We don't and this isn't a diss, but we don't have Mendes. We have O'Reilly right now. Very different molds of fullbacks. So they could, quote, get away with it. They could get away with it. Because of their midfield personnel, because of their fullbacks, they were able to get away with it. Didn't matter that they were necessarily -1. Didn't necessarily matter. I've already answered this. Every single one apart from Real Madrid. Every single one. Barca have Garcia. PSG have Chevalier. Arsenal have Raya. Liverpool have Alisson. Bayern have Neuer. All of the elite teams apart from Real Madrid have a goalkeeper who is at least good on the ball. At least competent on the ball, if not great on the ball, and is able to be an asset in build-up play. They all do. They all do. Only Real Madrid, and Courtois is an exception because Courtois is Courtois. And even then, Courtois is if you look at the underlying numbers, Courtois' contribution to the XG chain is a bit mental. It's a little bit mad. So I feel like he actually might be a little bit underrated in that sense. He's still not great on the ball, obviously. I'd define him as at the most competent, but still, the fact is that most teams do this. And us now, well, indeed, but we haven't yet proven that this is an elite side yet. That's the thing. We haven't yet proven that. Ayush, I'd recommend going back because we've discussed the whole PSG situation. I'd recommend rewinding 20 minutes, something like that, because we've already covered it. So Aït-Nouri coming back into the side helps a lot. And if you think of like the back four, let's take the back four against Brentford. Nunes for Stones, as an example. Nunes for Stones. Diaz stays where he is. Gvardiol stays where he is. Aït-Nouri in for O'Reilly. Immediately, there is a huge upgrade out wide. Now, that's not enough because we need to combine that, I believe, because even if our fullbacks have a really good first touch, we need to combine that with having the correct wide receivers. Doku has to play I'm now, the more I think about it, the more I believe that Doku actually becomes a borderline essential in this team right now, because if that's Marmoush instead, he can't do that. So the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm actually thinking that the Donnarumma signing is actually a massive benefit for Doku and a massive bad thing for Marmoush, certainly in terms of like build-up and trying to solve the problem. Doku becomes an almost must-starter on the left. And I'd say that Cherki has to be that sort of player as well. Has to be. Has to be, surely. What's that based on, Blue? What's that based on? Certainly not last season. He was the best shot stopper in Ligue 1 last season. Quarter on form's best in the world, indeed. I'd rather shot stopper than a goalkeeper that's only good in the ball. But that's not the trade-off, Red Camp. That didn't have to be the choice in the summer, because there were a number of goalkeepers who were very good at both. I think this is where people slip up. It wasn't Ederson or Donnarumma. It didn't have to be that. It didn't have to be one extreme or the other. You could have met somewhere in the middle, or more to one scale than the other. You could have had a goalkeeper who is good to great on the ball and great to brilliant in goal as well. This isn't a dichotomy. You could have had either or. It didn't have to be either or, sorry. Doesn't the left side of Ainuri, Doku, Foden solve a lot of this, and you have Rodri, Cavadio to play it back to? That left side is definitely a thing, but we can't become just a left side build-up team, because otherwise you become far too predictable, and the opponent knows, oh, if we just commit more bodies to their left, they're going to have to go to the right, and they're going to shit a brick and give us away the ball off the right. So that can't become the norm. That can't become that. There's nothing wrong with being better on one side, but we have to have, I believe we have to be good on both sides, because if you only become good on the left, then all of a sudden it makes it, even before a ball is kicked, really easy for the opponent to go, well, we know you're not going to do that off the right side, so why are we even bothering to be concerned about that right side? Let's commit a few more boys to the left, or just focus our more defensive players off your left, because we know you can't do anything else. And if you stop that, you're left in the same problem. So you need avenues, I think. You need different avenues. Love you too, Musty. Love you too. Give me a goalkeeper to go on the ball and a good shot stopper. No, but that's the point, Redcamp. They aren't available right now. What's done is done. They were available in the summer. There were at least 3. When City could have acted in the summer. That's the point. Right now, it's irrelevant because we've got Donnarumma. He's not going to go. There were 3. You could have had Garcia, who's now at Barca. You could have Chevalier, now at PSG. You could have gone for Costa as well. All of those would have been like a shot-stopping upgrade on Ederson, but would have also been very good to great on the ball as well. We didn't end up going for them. It didn't have to be one or the other. That's the point I'm making. It was never a case of, because I wanted a shot-stopping upgrade in the summer. I wanted a shot-stopping upgrade. Costa would have been a shot-stopping upgrade. Chevalier would have been a shot-stopping upgrade. Garcia would have been a shot-stopping upgrade. My preference, so I had Costa number 3. In hindsight, Garcia would have been my number 1 and Chevalier number 2. So in hindsight, Garcia, Chevalier, Costa, in that order. So like, take your pick. They all would have been those sorts of players. I'd say that this season, Garcia has illustrated that he would have been the best choice, because he started the season amazingly well, both on ball and in respect to shot stopping. He's been an absolute demon. If you watch Barcelona, he's been a madness. They were out there in the summer, but we didn't go for them. And that was a choice. And that was a choice to not do that. So we can't have the argument of, oh, but there was no one available. No, well, there were. There were options. There were a number. If you don't like Chevalier, okay, well, Garcia was there. If you don't like Costa, okay, well, or Chevalier was there. And if you don't like Garcia, then the other 2 were there. So it's not the case. It's not the case. And again, if you watched Costa, and if you watched Chevalier last season, I mean, Chevalier last season was literally the best Liga goalkeeper in the league, certainly in respect to shot stopping. Garcia almost like single-handedly saved his team from getting relegated. Costa had an absolute madness of a season last year as well, both on ball and shot stopping as well. If you watch the games, you'd know that. They were all very good last year. They were there. They were available. We didn't go for them. Whichever one you want, I don't care if you don't like 2 and you like 1. The point is you like 1. There's no way you don't like all 3 of them. You can't have watched all of them and decided that they're all rubbish. So there were options. We didn't go for them. And it's now irrelevant talking about the options because we're in the situation that we are in right now. Whether we think it's a mistake is irrelevant. What's done is done. And now we have to think about what are the potential solutions to it. And it is a problem that does need to be solved. It is definitely a problem that needs to be solved. I don't think we'll win the league unless we sort out our build-up problems. I don't consider that to be a thing. We're seeing a lot of those issues and a lot of those concerns. Yeah. Shall we have we like addressed? So have we addressed everything there? Before I just like come like to a general chat with you guys. We've talked about potential solutions, the viability of them. That's what I was gonna say. I think it was called Josh. Big up to Josh. He left a really interesting comment on the. He left a really interesting comment on my most recent video, and he said, on the point of why can't we play like PSG, and I said, well, it's because Vitinha, we don't have Dembele, blah 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 blah. He said, and I like this as a theory, that why can't we just drop the right winger into the midfield like a Shirky, and then have Haaland go to right wing in like the initial phases? And I think the problem with that, and I love the problem solving there, but I think the problem with that is, let's say that you solve that build-up problem and now you have got it to the midfield. Now my big bully boy transitional striker's at right wing, which is not a position that he has ever played. So it just, I think it creates another problem, that's all. You could argue it solves one problem, but then it brings up another. So I like the thought process. I like the theory. I don't think that would work in practice, though. But I love the problem solving. So big up to Josh for that, because I genuinely did like that idea. And it made me think. I was like, ooh, that's a fun idea. Why can't we do that? And then my conclusion was that it wouldn't be. I don't think it would work in practice. But I like the vibe. I like the idea. I like the idea. Is Trafford good with the ball? I mean, he's like fine, but I think with Trafford, like it was always gonna be. And I didn't want Trafford, by the way. You guys know that I didn't want Trafford, but we do know that there would have probably been more of a ceiling for becoming this good to great ball player. He's currently good on the ball based on his Burnley career so far. Sorry, based off what I saw of his time with Burnley. Sorry. And maybe he could have become like a great one because he's young enough and he's not as experienced, so could be a bit more moldable. But I don't think he's going to be here next season anyway. Garcia always going to Barca, same for Chevrolet and PSG. Costa, though, or maybe that would have been the thing, because again, Costa is. I'm sorry, some people are exposing themselves as not watching these players enough, I'm afraid, because Costa is a very good shot stopper. Like, it's actually objective and not even something one can argue with. Actually, he's actually quite a good shot stopper. Is he as good as Garcia and Chevalier? No, but this is where we have the trade-offs, and he'll still be an upgrade. He still would have been a good goalkeeper, but then we don't even have these build-up concerns, so it's one of those things. So it still would have been a shot-stopping upgrade, and the on-ball work we wouldn't even have to be really thinking about it, to be fair. I like your top, thank you, mate. Sachin says one of Foden or Ryan needs to be a deep line playmaker and help out the defense. Yeah, so we touched on that. That could be a solution, but then you're just inviting other teams in, and that might cause another problem. So there's almost like every single solution that we're finding, it's like it introduces another problem. That's all. People who watch Costa think he's a good goalkeeper. I would suggest yes. Kovacic and Roger would be a good solution. I don't think so. I don't really want Kovacic in my team. I don't want him in my team. I'll be real. Because the problem isn't in the midfield. The problem isn't the midfielders. Even when Rodri's been in the team, we've seen how many years have Foden, Rodri, Reinders at Milan illustrated themselves as fantastic press-resistant players and fantastic at helping build up. And we are still struggling with that as the midfield. Even though Nico could improve, it's not really that shouldn't be the starting point, I don't think. That shouldn't be the starting point. If we play Shirky at right wing, which I do think is probably more likely to happen, we have three build-up options. Shirky dropping back, who fits a Haaland, play through Aït Doku on the left, definitely. Now I'll couple that with a new right back, and all of a sudden, City look a lot better building up from the left, with Aït and Doku, and Foden as well. building up from the right with a proper right back in Shirky, and as you say, also through the centre by just hoofing it up. So that's definitely a thing. But right now, that can only be fully resolved by bringing in this new signing and hoping that Shirky's used in the manner that we are suggesting anyway. I don't think so. I don't know if I'd be happy with my midfield three being Rodri, Foden, Shirky. I don't know. He never played, because you got to think about it like this. Shirky would be playing at right central midfield in that scenario. If he's going to play anywhere, it should be right central midfield. He never played there for Lyon, as far as I'm aware. I don't think he ever played right central midfield. He played right wing. He played right midfield. He played left midfield. I don't know if he played left wing. He played 10, but he never played as a pure central midfielder. Based on what I saw of him anyway. Maybe that was like a game where he did it, but in the main, he was either at right wing or 10. Sometimes it was right midfield. Sometimes it was left midfield. But I think sometimes it was also technically false nine, but it was never as a central midfielder. So he's never really been that, and nor do I think he should ever be that sort of player, because I don't think he has the traits to do that. I don't think you'd be getting the best out of Shirky if you did that either. So I don't like the thought of it. And it would have to, and if we are having that conversation, it would have to be in place of Reinders, because Foden has demonstrated that he's, this season anyway, much better off-ball midfielder than Reinders is. If you made a midfield of Rodri, Shirky, Reinders, and take out one of our best off-ball midfielders this season, arguably our best, you're going to have a bad time. Does that make sense? You're going to have a bad time. Do I think Donnarumma's had a good start to the season for City? I think that relative to the player we know he is, he has had a perfect start to the season. He has done everything that I expected of him, good and bad. And the more that I watch Donnarumma at City, the happier I am with my analysis video of him. I think that is the second best video I've ever made. Every single week, that video is getting, in my opinion, like that's aging better and better and better and better. He's had the start to the season that I would have expected, and then some. We've seen fantastic saves. We've seen poor distribution. We've seen how his amazing leadership. We've seen how he's able to make calamitous errors. We've seen it all that I outlined in the video. So it's the start that I really expected him to have, and I'm very happy with my conclusions therein. And it's just making me more assured in that. Definitely, Aryaman, definitely. I'm very happy. What can I say? I'm proud of that video. I'm very proud of that video, and I make no mistake about it, because that video took bare hours of work. So you're damn right I'm proud of that video. Bloody Calvin Phillips, this guy. That's exactly right. Fenway doesn't really help the small space issues. Can play Shirky as an attacking midfielder instead, but we don't play with an attacking midfielder off ball. And then who are you taking out for him? We don't, no, actually, we just don't play with one off ball. We play either a 4-3-3, in which case we have two central midfielders, either side of the DM, or it's the exact same, or we have a 4-1-4-1, where it's the exact same setup. We have a defensive midfielder, the 6, and then we have two 8s. Off ball, anyway. So you'd have to change the structure of you have to change the entire shape. And I still wouldn't like that, because then he's still pressing from the front. I don't like the idea of Shirky pressing from the front, with Haaland anyway. How much has Vinny grown? He's growing on me. It's happening. I kept saying that the ideal replacement would be Kompany if he can prove himself. And so far, he's doing a damn good job. Bayern fans love him. We did the watch-along of like him against Chelsea, and I said how impressed I was then. I'm hoping that he's going to have illustrated by the end of Pep's contract that he is definitely good enough and is an elite manager. Because we can't be, giving out charity jobs like Chelsea did with Lampard. He has to be good enough. But right now, he's on the right track, definitely. That we had a chat about it last stream, I think, Vish, on the last Touchline talk, sorry. And the conclusion was basically that, yeah, this probably makes sense given that Livramento's injured. We're probably not going to go for him now. All the potential right backs are these younger versions. Whether it's Martin Fernandez, whether it's Costa, whether it's Omar, whether it's Reed, whether it's Wrench, whoever, Thiago Santos, whoever it is, they're all young and it's need more of a sample size. So I do agree. I do agree with that. We might have to wait now that Livramento's got injured again. You get me? Shaqiri could play right midfield, play more of a 4-4-2. Technically could Fenway. I have raised my concerns about him playing direct out-and-out right midfield because of how much pressing work our right and left midfielders would have to do in a 4-4-2. And I don't think Shaqiri right now has the tools for it. Right wing in a 4-3-3, I'd much prefer. But that's definitely, if he can improve off ball and illustrate that he can do that, then that would absolutely be another solution. But so far, Pep doesn't seem to have wanted to go for a 4-4-2, which is interesting. Thoughts on Marmoush? Will he be another bench player? No, I don't think so. Expecting a good run of games after the international break. Yeah, hopefully. Donnarumma saved the game against Brentford, but almost conceded us for it too. Yeah, this is the trade-off, because that was a very good save on an individual level. But then, even without that moment of madness, which nearly resulted in the goal, and that was a moment of madness, that nearly cost us a goal. But it's also costing us what we've been outlining in the entirety of this stream: City's build-up problems. It's a trade-off. We will see whether the trade-off is worth it at the end of, I guess. Well, I was going to say this season, but I guess like at the end of like his City career, I guess the only way we're really going to be able to tell. But certainly in the more short term, the end of the season, we'll find out whether it is. So far, it's causing us a lot of problems. So far, I would argue that right now the trade-off hasn't yet illustrated itself as worth it. There's plenty of time for it to do so, but right now I don't think that is the case. Company's just won 10 games in a row. Big up to him. A few Bayern fans I spoke to said he's very selfless and always works on his weaknesses. Who Company? We love Vinny. We love him. What a leader he was, man. And indeed still is. It's tricky, Lost Shadow, because we just had a whole chat about how O'Reilly might need to be sacrificed. He might have to be sacrificed for the purposes of improving our build-up, which isn't fair to him, but it's a sad reality of the situation that we are in. City cooling plans to sign a new right-back due to the impressive performance of Qatar and completely shelve plans until at least next summer. I think it's probably more to do with the fact that there is, outside of Livramento, no other right-back that I can think of who you'd go for right now. That's probably more the thinking. If there were this sort of player, then they would have hit them in the summer, wouldn't they? But they ultimately didn't. And that was before we even saw Kasanov at right back properly. So I do think it's probably more to do with an abundance of options rather than having faith in the options. To me, that reads more like a PR piece. I don't believe that they are truly happy with the right side. Yeah, if they are happy, I'm very concerned. Very, very concerned. Hello, Dom. Since the right side's dead, why not have a midfield Roger Reinders, Nico, put Foden right wing? I'm not entertaining Foden at right wing. It's a waste. Tell Shaqiri shy to the press, and it seems like he's the type who wants to prove anyone wrong, says Fenway. That's the thing. I don't think he is bad at pressing. I just don't think that that position would be suited for him. Marmoush will find. What's the difference between Traff and Donnarumma so far in respect of what they've done this season? Well, the shot stopping is similar. I'd actually say that Trafford's save had the best save of them all. The difference is one player is likely to develop into a player who is very good on the ball and is still a very good shot stopping upgrade. The other's never going to do the former. So that's the key difference between the two. I didn't want either. It's not about the midfield, Ash, not at all. You've got Rodri, you got Foden, and Reinders in the midfield, and the errors and the issues are still there. I don't consider it a midfield problem at all. Marmoush does give everything. That's why I love Marmoush. Absolute boy. So you don't think Nico could improve when it comes to the build-up? No, absolutely. Lost Shadow. The good thing, I know we touched on it in the post-mortem. The good thing about O'Reilly is that I'm not going to get his age wrong. I believe he's 20 because we were comparing. Because I was saying it's an issue for both fullbacks. It's an issue for the left back and the right back. The difference. So if we're comparing O'Reilly and Nunes, the difference is O'Reilly's 20. And has been developed in a City system and a City academy. So I would like to think that he can absolutely iron that side out of his game and that can improve. If you look at Nunes, he's 27. If your first touch and your general on-ball ability isn't great at 27, it's never gonna become great, really, unless there's some mental spurt. Precedent tells us that will that's never going to happen. So Nunes is never going to become that player. O'Reilly could, definitely. But given that we're now struggling, it might make more sense to commit to Aït-Nouri, who already is that sort of player. And then maybe ease him into it and work on that in training and whatnot. You get me? What about the United save? What about the United save? It was a good save. Is this about who did the better save? Like, Trafford's against Brighton was more impressive if that's the conversation. But yeah, it's a good save. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. He probably should. He probably should because he is England's best overlapping left-back option. Who's even a better overlapping left-back option? Even if Livramento's fit, it's not him when he plays at left-back. That's not really his game. Maybe Lewis Hall, like if he played more consistently for Newcastle. Can't think of many. Can't think of many, to be honest. Luke Shaw, shut up. Oh, dear. I do like Lewis Skelly, but he's not really like an overlapping sort of player. He's more of like an inverting option. Guys, got nearly 200 people watching and not even 115 likes. Pay rent and leave a like on the video. Pay rent or you're barred. Yeah, you're barred. We're touching this Diallo. Feel free to I'd recommend maybe rewinding 30 minutes or so because we have touched on that already. My memory's a bit weak. I can't remember why exactly I didn't want Trafford. My concern with Trafford, because the landscape after the Club World Cup for me, and you all know, I was the biggest Ederson fan, but it got to a point where even LNobbins in the summer was saying, we need a new goalkeeper. We have to get a better shot stopper than Ederson right now. And when I'm saying that, you know that times are dark, because I'm the biggest Ederson believer, / was the biggest Ederson believer. I could still see the value he was offering, but the scale had shifted the other way, and he was just making mental errors all over the place, like the 3 errors in those 2 games or something mad like that. So I was of the view that we need a new goalkeeper, and it has to be a shot-stopping upgrade. So, of course, I still love Ederson Mussi, absolutely, a legend of the club. But this idea that people try to say on Twitter that I wanted Ederson to stay because I wanted Ederson to be our main keeper was not the case. I wanted a shot-stopping upgrade. So that's not a problem for me. I wanted a shot-stopping upgrade. The reason why I wasn't happy with Trafford coming in as the outright number 1 was because he was, for me, way too much of an unknown. Way too much. it was so hard to judge his time at Burnley. His first season at Burnley, like his first proper season in the Premier League, he is in a Vincent Kompany Burnley side that got relegated, obviously, and he's facing a ridiculous amount of shots. He's playing for fucking Burnley in the Premier League in his first ever season, inexperienced. It's really hard to judge how he was that season, and he struggled that season overall. There were still some good signs, but still. The next season, unbelievable season. Burnley in particular, under Scott Parker, fantastic defensive unit. Trafford was in like the top 1% for shot stopping, but it was in the Championship, and he was playing for Scott Parker's Burnley, and they got 100 points, didn't they? It was a very defensive and solid side, so it was nearly impossible for me to make a proper judgment based off those seasons. So it was a massive unknown for me, and I didn't know whether he was able to make the step up. Now, I did consider that maybe long term he could have taken that step. Maybe, but that's a maybe. And I didn't want to rely on maybes. I wanted one of the three that we've discussed. Someone who is already experienced, but there is still massive room for growth. But he's better than Trafford right now. Trafford wasn't even on my radar. Like, he wasn't even in... Well, I only thought of like 3 players, really. But he wasn't even a remote thought in my brain. Outside of, could you bring him in as a backup to solve the homegrown problem? But I didn't think that he would come in to be a backup. But here we are, and he is a backup. So I don't even know. I don't know. I still don't think Trafford will be here next season. But that's why I didn't want Trafford. It's nothing against him. I think he could become a good goalkeeper. He might be able to become a great goalkeeper. It ain't going to happen here, though. It ain't going to happen here. So yeah, I wasn't particularly excited by the Trafford news. You can like go watch the stream from the time. I was trying to like rationalize it to myself. I wasn't particularly happy with it. I was a bit upset, to be honest. But yeah. Yes, we are playing South Park tonight on the Twitch. Musty, if you could please do the honours with the Twitch link. 7 PM tonight. We'll be wrapping up in around 10 minutes or so, I'd suggest. You already like the video? Like it twice, yeah? It's rude to finger point. You. I'm pointing at you in particular, Saitama. You in particular, you little rat. And I can call you that because you are a little rat. Look at you. Look at you. With your little... Is that a silver rat badge or a platinum one? It's a little swine. Well, you're not a little swine. You're a little rat. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Very kind words. Glad you enjoy the streams. Nah, Courtois is a superior shot stopper, to be honest. If we're being, like, deadly serious for a second. Yeah, exactly, Fenway. He seemed like he was gone. It seemed like he was done. Yeah, he had to go. I wanted a shot-stopping upgrade. I didn't want it to be Trafford. I wanted it to be one of the players that we have discussed. And I think that they would have been a lovely option because we wouldn't have been having the stream. Basically. Okay, like it 3 times then. God, guys, come on. Sort it out. I don't think so, Fenway. I think he goes next year. I like Trafford. Yeah, I like Trafford. I like the concept. I liked the idea of him becoming our number 1 from the sense of he is he's an academy player, and I loved how we could chant England's number 1 when it was like Joe Hart, blah 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 blah. I liked it from like a sort of sentimental POV, but from a more realistic one, from a colder, harsher one, which is what I tried to do most of the time. I didn't like the signing, and I was concerned with the signing. That's why when it came out that, Ederson's staying for another year, I was a bit happier, because I was like, oh, okay, so Ederson to start the season, but Trafford will be transitioned in, so he's not like thrown in at the deep end. If he's signing Trafford, that's the best case scenario for him, to be eased into the side. Ederson leaves next year, he becomes the number 1 thereafter, and if he's good enough, based on his showings, he becomes the number 1, you sign a backup. If he's not good enough based on his showings, you bring in another goalkeeper, and then he becomes the number 2, or you just sell him, and that sort of thing. But ultimately, that's not what happened, so I don't really get the signing. Don't really get them. I think that would be too soon, but the summer, definitely. I'm very convinced of that. Very convinced of that. I'd be amazed if he didn't. If he didn't, I don't really know what he's playing at. I don't really get what he's playing at, because it's not like he's... Yeah. It was very funny when, like, we signed him, and lots of people were saying, oh, we're just going to have 2 number ones. Guys, that was never going to happen. You don't bring in Donnarumma, the highest paid goalkeeper in the world, to have a 50-50 split of the playing time with James Trafford, who's got 1 season of top flight experience. That's not going to happen. And, oh, but, Trafford will just take over once Donnarumma leaves. He's only 3 years older than him. It's not like there's a difference between the two. It was never going to happen. It was never going to happen like that. We potentially will have homegrown problems next season. It all depends on what happens with the centre-backs. Because if Hayes and Barr come back, and if we are deciding that they are staying, and we get rid of Stones and Ake, then that is a +2 non-homegrown swing. And that's even before we've looked at other areas of the pitch. So I do think next season we will have to focus on homegrown players. Players like Wharton, Gibbs-White, that sort of vibe. Because we will need another midfielder. If Bernardo and Kovacic go, we will need another midfielder. And we will need a right back, but it's not going to be a homegrown one at this rate. So we are a bit limited. So we might have to go all out for Wharton or all out for Gibbs-White. Or it depends what happens with the centre-backs, in fairness. It does depend what happens with the centre-backs. Do we just keep Stones and Ake around for another year? And loan or sell Etcheverry, Hayes, Spar? I don't know what we do. I do not know what we do. But that remains to be seen. Last few questions, guys, because we have been live for 1 hour 40. I know that people often get upset when I make these streams too long. What was the Stone stuff, mate? No, I've not seen that. What's that? Will Wharton be happy to sit on our bench? I wonder what's going to happen, Rowan. Will we just play 4 in midfield? Will we have Rodri, Foden, Reinders, and Wharton? I'm not sure. I don't know. Might be a different shape. Would I rather have an offensive or defensive fullback? I prefer Nico Kusano since we don't ooze confidence in that defense. Of course, depends on the team we play against. Generally speaking, I want an attacking right back because I want Shirky to play at right wing, but I don't want him to be shackled to right wing. I want him to drift inside, and that can only happen if the right back pushes up. I don't know why I'm doing this. Attacking fullbacks is what I want. The treble season was a thing. That was cute to have 4 centre-backs. But Pep's always loved attacking fullbacks. Look at his teams. He's had Dani Alves. He's had Abidal. He's had Lam. He's had what's his face? That was my favourite Bayern player. Davis, was it? I believe it was. No, not Davis. Alaba, sorry. He's had Walker. He signed Mendy. He's always favoured attacking fullbacks. Aït-Nouri is one of those players as well. I think that's why we signed him. Attack wins games, guys. Attack wins games. Attack wins titles. Attack. If I were a manager, I'd be an attacking one in case you couldn't tell. When we do... Oh, sorry, Musty, I've not got my Twitch chat open, so I didn't see it. Can you give me a TLDR? When we do Football Manager, you better believe Nobbins is going to be attacking in possession, yeah? None of this, even though we are going to be Cork City, the worst team in Ireland, you better believe. Oh, last season was tough for me to the point where I thought about stopping. I didn't want to do it. I had enough of being a professional and trying to do everything right in my power to then keep breaking down and not having the answers. It was a very difficult place to be, and hopefully I don't go back to that place. Yeah, injuries must be horror for players who are injury prone. That's got to be horrendous. So yeah, when it's Football Manager time, Nobbins is going to be an attacking manager. Yeah, attacking manager. The Singo ship has sailed, Ethan. Yeah, he's now at Galatasaray. Okay, chill. We still have a stable rest defense. We are going to play treble football. We are going to play a 3-2. We're going to play a 3-2-2-3, yeah? That's what we're going to do. I don't agree. Attack wins games and attack wins titles. Certainly in the Premier League anyway. The team that wins the title, more often than not, is the team that scores the most goals, rather than the team that concedes the fewest. In the 3-point era, scoring goals is far more important than not conceding them, Because back in the day, the argument could be made because 2 draws equaled a win, because a win used to be 2 points. Nowadays, a win and a loss is better than a draw and a draw. So actually, attacking is how you win titles. Yeah, this is very exciting about Football Manager, by the way. Very exciting. I was very annoyed that they didn't have that last game or whenever it was. You get me. You get me. You get me. Yes, I have seen that. That's lovely. Shut up, Thunder Road. Oh, dear. Hey. If you want to make an omelette, sometimes you got to break some fucking eggs. Do you know what I mean? You're going to have a pretty stern conversation with the eggs if you want to make an omelette. So, there's weaknesses to every system. If we die, we die. You know what I mean? We don't have time for this harambol bullshit with Cork City. We're going to be attacking the opponent. I don't give a damn if it's Shamrock Rovers. Yeah? We're going to be taking the game to them, fighting with bravery. Yeah? And doing it well. Doing it well. I do love Singo. He was my boy. He was my boy. A game is won when I score more goals than you. That is correct. Yes. Yeah, make sure we get the likes up just before we go. We are about to wrap it up, so let's see if we can get to that target before we shoot off. I think that right now, Ethan, it's sadly because of the injury, I've accepted that we should probably just wait until the summer. Wait to see, because lots of these young players who are like 23 or younger, let's just let's just wait for more of a sample size and see how they get on, and then we can hit them, and whoever that may be. But certainly next year, we can't delay anymore. And whatever you think about it, based on the available players, because we ain't getting Hakimi for a number of reasons, we ain't getting Timber, we ain't getting Trent, these elite right backs, it ain't happening. There is a... What's the opposite of sparsity? Is that a word? If something's sparse, it means there's not a lot of it. Sparsity, is that a word? There is a sparsity of right backs. I feel like it's a word. The fact or condition of being thinly scattered or distributed and not thick or dense. That's sort of what I'm after here. Sparse. Scarcity. Yeah. Yeah, that's the word I'm after. Yeah, that's the word I'm after. Thank you, guys. Yeah. As it turns out, sparsity is also a word. The fact or condition of being thinly scattered or distributed and not thick or dense. The options aren't thick, guys. They're thin. Technically, it works, but no. The word I was after was scarcity. But interesting, I've learned a new word there. Sparsity is also a word that would have worked. There's a scarcity of elite right backs right now. We have to look to younger players. It would seem there's no other option. We can't go for a short term, have him for 1 year, and then miss out on the next elite option. That would be a madness to do that. We have to commit, I think, next summer and go for someone who's ready now, but could develop into an elite player as well. But there we go. I think sparsity might be okay to see the industry. What are you trying to say, Fenway? What are you trying to say? Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed today's stream. Really been enjoying the streams recently. Thank you so much for all your beautiful support. Touchline Talk is every single Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Did we get to the target of 115? I don't know if we did. Let's have a look. 8 more, bad looks of it, guys. Come on. 7 more. Come on. 7 more. Let's get that. Let's get that. I'm just going to, before we shoot off, big up to Ethan, by the way, one of my gorgeous hardcore ultras. Absolutely gorgeous human being. Your support is actually very humbling, so thank you so much for that. Would you like exclusive videos that analyse many things, including a potential right-back option for City? Would you like extended Ask Nobbins videos? Would you like your name to be more prevalent in the chat? Would you like a little rat next to your name? Would you like to support the channel and help me to continue the career that I love? Would you like to join the Hall of Fame and have your name fly across, sorry, at the end of our streams and every single video? Click the link in the pinned comment or the link in the that the Nobbot has just provided. For £3 a month, you can join these wonderful people. Eden did it today. Big up to Eden Holt for that. And you get a random footballer every time you do it as well, which is very fun every time you renew your membership. Consider clicking that link and consider supporting the channel and making your boy very happy. If you want to do something for free, we are live streaming on Twitch tonight. We are playing South Park, the next installment, which I believe is the Fractured But Whole. Not the Fractured Butthole, the Fractured But Whole. That's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be at 7 p.m. Tonight. We've got to 115 on my test stream, so thank you guys very much for that. That's what I desired. Really, I hope you found some value in this stream, where we have assessed City's build-up problem. Hopefully, you feel that it's been useful. Hopefully, you now feel that you understand the problems that City have a little bit more. Or maybe I'm just talking bollocks. Maybe that is the case. It's quite likely. It's quite likely. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'll see you on the Twitch tonight at 7 p.m. And I'll catch you next time. Goodbye, guys.